Hey y'all, how y'all doing? So today is Monday, February the 22nd, and today I'm going to talk to you about love languages. Now, this video sort of goes along with the book that I have been talking about in previous videos. I didn't bring it with me, but this is my journal, the Write It Down and Make It Happen. Now, the exercise I'm going to share with you now in a few minutes is not in the book, but it's something that I came up with during the process of writing my letter to my future husband. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if this is your first video of mine, go back and look at the video titled, I'm Gonna Send Him a Letter. And by the way, nobody got that reference. It's a Van Halen song, you know? I'm gonna send him a letter, yeah, just to try to make myself feel better. Anyway, and I did write this in my Write It Down, Make It Happen journal, which I'm gonna refer to now. So first of all, love languages. Now, this is something that I came across a long time ago, and I had been doing some research into the love languages because I was wanting to write a article for my astrology blog on the 12 signs of the zodiac and their language of love. And there are already articles out there about this topic, but I was going to put my own spin on it. So this was sort of fresh in my mind. And so when I was writing my letter to my future husband, as I said before, this is something that was fresh in my mind, and I incorporated it into my letter. So before I go any further, I want to explain the 5 love languages and what they are. So the first is words of affirmation. Words of affirmation are, I love you. They are pet names. They are words that affirm your love and affection for a person, how much you care about them. Words of affirmation also includes love notes. And when we talk about, I do want to pause here really quick. When we talk about love languages, we're not specifically talking about the love between two partners, husband and husband, wife and wife, whatever. These love languages incorporate all of our relationships where love is present. But for the purpose of this video, I am focusing on the love between two partners. But again, words of affirmation, parents give their children a nickname, or, you've seen those videos where a parent will put a little note in their child's lunch and say, you're going to ace that test today, or they'll draw a little funny picture on their little Debbie snack or whatever. But again, we're focusing on love between two adult individuals. So that's the first love language, is words of affirmation. The second is quality time. So quality time is just what it sounds like. We know what quality time is. It's giving someone your undivided attention. It's a shared experience. For example, in my own life, this is a story I've told before. I don't think I've ever told it on camera, but I've posted it on Facebook around Mother's Day. So those of you who don't know, my parents divorced when I was really little, and I subsequently wound up being raised by my grandparents. But occasionally, my mother would come pick me up to spend the night with her or spend the weekend with her. And I remember there was this one night, specifically, it was a Friday night, I believe. My stepdad wasn't around. I guess he was at work. And probably, I don't even think any of my younger brothers were born at this time. So it was just me and my mother. And I had seen a commercial for a Godzilla movie. This had to be in the late 70s, early 80s. And I love those old Godzilla movies. And I don't know what my mom had planned for us, but I wanted to watch this Godzilla movie. And I just remember sitting on the couch with her, and she sat down and she watched this movie with me. Now, she probably wasn't the least bit interested in this movie, but because I was interested in it, she sat there and watched it with me. And I just remember being excited, seeing Godzilla with his nasty breath melting that iceberg, and he was getting ready to break out and go fuck Japan up. And she just sat there with me, and we had that experience together. That's quality time. And I also said, people can be together without being together. I have a friend who's a waitress, and she commented one time about how she sees people on dates. And it's obvious that the people are on a date, or they'll say they're on a date. And the one person will be sitting there on their phone, and the other person will be sitting there on their phone. Now, these people are together physically, but their mind and their attention is somewhere else. That is not quality time. The third language of love is physical touch. We know what physical touch is, and I'm not specifically talking about going up, grabbing somebody's boob, or grabbing their junk. It's, putting your arm around your partner while you're at the movies or while you're at the couch. It's, coming up behind them while they're doing dishes maybe, and just putting your arms around them, kissing them on the back of their head. It's little forehead kisses. It's cuddling in bed after sex. Physical touch does include sex. And so physical touch is very important. Human beings are built to need that. When they don't get that, it does affect their health and their well-being. And anything that affects your physical health does affect your spiritual health, and vice versa. As I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about how in the late 80s, with the AIDS epidemic, that's why I first heard of this condition called touch starvation or skin hunger. And it was in the context of, for you kids who don't really remember or realize, there was a time when doctors, nurses, paramedics, firemen, they refused to treat someone who either had AIDS or who they suspected of had AIDS because, and I'm not excusing this, we just did not know enough about the disease at the time. And with all the terrible things that were happening to these AIDS patients, I remember one of them talking about how no one touched them anymore. And it added to their sense of isolation and depression and despair. And that's not something that's conducive to healing and recovery. And then there's a very famous photograph of Princess Di shaking the hand of a man with AIDS, and that was kind of a turning point. That was very controversial at the time because she was touching this man without gloves on. And then later on, I believe it was either Knots Landing or Dynasty, I can't remember, but Rock Hudson appeared on that show when he was dying of AIDS, and I believe it was Linda Evans who kissed him on camera. And that was also kind of controversial, but it did show some of the shifting attitudes about the importance of physical touch and physical affection. Let's see, the next language of love is acts of service. This is finding out, you like somebody, you find out what they like, what is their favorite food, so you might learn to make it for them, or just doing things for someone in order to make them happy, because it does make them happy, and seeing someone you like happy makes you happy. And the last language of love, which kind of threw me a little bit, is receiving gifts. And I think for me, receiving a gift is about allowing yourself to be vulnerable, letting someone give you something because they like you, and being able to accept that with no strings attached. Okay? So those are the 5 love languages. So when people talk about their love language, they often talk about it in terms of only having one love language, when in fact you can have more than one love language. And you can have a primary love language and a secondary love language, and your love language can change depending on who that love is being directed at. So you may show your child, you may have a love language that you use with your child that is different from, say, a love language you use with a friend or a lover or a family member. And also, people don't really stop to think about this. And this was my own realization. I didn't see this anywhere else when talking about love languages. Love is not a river. Love does not flow in one direction. Love flows in 2 directions. It flows outward from me towards who I love, and towards me from who I love, or who loves me, rather. And so the love language you have for giving may or may not be the same love language you have for receiving. And so I'm going to allow myself to be a little bit vulnerable here for a minute, and I'm going to share what my love languages are. And this is what I wrote in my journal, because it helped me to understand the dynamic of the relationship I want to have with this future person that I'm writing these letters to. And so really thinking about my past relationships and what I feel like I need from that special someone in my life and what I have to offer that special someone in my life, I identified my love language as this. For example, my love language for giving is acts of service. In a relationship, I will, find out what my man likes to eat. What is his favorite foods? What is his favorite meal? I will learn to cook that. I will, I had a boyfriend one time. He was a coffee person, and he was not a morning person. But he had to have his coffee a certain way. It was a certain brand of coffee. It was a certain brand of creamer. It was a certain amount of creamer to coffee. And he just was not himself until he had his coffee in the morning. And me, I'm never been much of a morning person, but the older I get, the more I am. But I was more of a morning person than him. So I would get up before him, and I had him show me several times how to make his coffee. And I learned how to make his coffee, and I would serve it to him in bed because I liked him, I thought I loved him, and I wanted to make him happy. That was me showing my love for him. And I find that I do this in my friendships, and I do this with other relationships. For example, just doing things for people without them asking and not expecting anything in return. And then in terms of receiving love, my love language for receiving is physical touch. When I was talking about people going long periods of time without being touched, that's me. That's something that I've experienced, and it's given me depression at times. And partially for that reason, I've engaged in hookups, and I didn't necessarily do it for the sex, although sex was good. I did it so that I can touch someone and be touched by someone. And so when I'm in a relationship, I expect you to hold my hand. I expect you to put your arm around me. I expect you to hug me. I want little forehead kisses, Words of affirmation mean nothing to me. Words of affirmation are probably my anti-love language, because in my past relationships, I had people tell me they love me, but who hurt me and use me. When someone tells me they love me, it makes me very uncomfortable. It gives me anxiety, because when I hear someone say, I love you, I automatically, walls go up, and I think, what do they want from me? They want something from me. They're going to take something from me. What am I going to lose? Because even in, relationships and even in friendships, love, even platonic love, has come at a price. I've had friends who wanted me to, they wanted me to be their friend, but it became very clear early on that, this person thinks they're going to get free tarot readings out of me or free spell work, and I'm going to sit here and listen to all their problems and just make them feel better about their life. Which is fine if I get that back, but they didn't really give that back to me. And so I've had to cut people out of my life when they sort of cast me in this role of being a supporting character in the story of their life. I had to, leave that story and assert that I am the main character in the story of my life. I'm not your supporting character. So anyway, that is my video on the languages of love. And so I encourage you, if you're reading this book and you're writing your future letters, I want you to sit down and think about the love languages, and think about, how do you give love and how do you need to receive it? And that's something that you need to be thinking about in terms of attracting the right person to you. You need to attract someone who can accept the love that you have to offer and who will give you the love that you are looking for. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a great day.